Welcome to the Soulful Threes Journeys podcast, y'all. I'm excited. This is our second podcast, second episode. We are just getting everything set up, and we are excited to be with y'all yet again. Our first episode went live on YouTube, and we are trying to get up on some other spaces, but positivity so far, and I'm loving it. I love the comments and the support on TikTok and everywhere else. But tonight we got something special for you all. Tonight's episode, it might just hit a little bit different. If you're anything like me, you've tried to rely on motivation and probably learned the hard way that motivation is a liar, liar, pants on fire. It does not work. It does not work by itself. It shows up when it wants, and it disappears the minute life gets loud. And you want to know what stays, though? You want to know what stays? Discipline. Discipline stays. Habits stay. Systems. All those three things stay. And the things we repeat when nobody's clapping for us, that's what stays. And that's what saved me more than once, fellas. And get this. I think Camp's going to touch on this a little bit later. But with science-backed technology, we got advancements, right? In applications, services, journaling, all sorts of different things that show evidence that we can better or boost our productivity. And I'm excited to dive into that in this episode, fellas. So with that, let's get started. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
so let's unpack it. Let's start with what I went off with on the motivation versus discipline. And I'll kick it off, I guess. I used to think, for me at least, I feel like I needed to be ready before I could make changes in my life, right? But the truth is, if I look at it evidentially, right, I built most of my success and my healing in the days I didn't feel like showing up. That's the truth. That's when it mattered most to me anyway. And I tell my community this all the time. You don't wait for motivation. You build the habit, and then the habit saves you on the back end. So I guess I'll prompt y'all with a question is, when was the time you felt burnt out or overwhelmed? But whatever the habit was, it kept you steady.
Well, man, for me, that's a powerful question. I played a lot of sports. I was good at a lot of sports, man. And for me, that was the first awakening of habits, right? The repetition, right? Shooting a jumper, in football, hitting the A gap because I was a running back, right? Looking at the small details of what's around me, paying attention to, the lineman, right? The guard that's pulling, right? Do I go on his left? Do I go on his right? Right. So my coach really pushed in us, hey, details, habits, right? Whether they're small or big or however you look at them, make sure that, you are paying attention, because that's the thing, right? The motivation comes in when you score the touchdown from the habits. Right?
Yeah.
The excitement,
Yeah.
the that's where the motivation comes in at. But those habits, man, like you said, bro, is something that is so detrimental, man. And I think a lot of people, they miss that because the word motivation is so big. You got motivational speakers, you got motivation this, motivation that, right? I always like to listen to a guy. I think his name is Goggins, is his last name.
David Goggins.
Yeah, David Goggins, right? And he talked about motivation is fleeting. You want to be driven, right? And I've always held on to that. And I said, man, the difference between the two, right? And it is so true, right? If you're driven to something, that means you're perpetual. You're in it. There's motion. You're moving forward, man. But bro, my life has been coach. I'm always hearing my coach in the back of my head, right? Patterns. That's another powerful word, right? To get you up and get you going, right? I mean, even in the tech space where Camp is from, algorithms, patterns, that's data, right?
Yep.
That'll help you push, man. So man, I'm here for it. Camp, what you got, man? Yeah, I see your brain cooking, bro. What you?
Well, it's like I've been dealing with trying to create my own patterns. Like I had to come to it to myself. Like I always thought I had to do everything myself. I had to keep pushing, keep driving. I didn't really have a real support system. I mean, you got your family, but they're only as good as to a point,
Right.
So I felt that I had to keep driving. So I just started creating my own routine. Wake up, do the basic stuff, even if it's just brushing your teeth, getting that stuff done. And then I do my workout. And then I do a little bit of retraining of my brain. I've got a couple different things that I go through multiple times a day. Like I've got a couple of things like a gratitude reset. I don't know if you guys have heard of any of those.
Yeah.
When I wake up during the day, like I'll even do the silly little, not really silly, I guess, but it's just something that I do each day. I'll go finish brushing my teeth. I'll look in the mirror and be like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a high five. I got this today. And it sounds so simple. It sounds like, why am I talking to myself in my mirror? But it does help. It gives me that little perk, that little like, okay, that positivity, that endorphin rush. It's just like, yeah, I got this. No big deal. Then I go about the rest of my day, get that workout in, get the endorphins going, and we're good to go. But as I kind of mentioned before, there was like I think I mentioned like the high five habit. That was just that one I mentioned earlier. And then there was the like the gratitude reset. Just basically waking up and just listing 3 things you're exactly happy for that day. Just get your morning coffee. You don't even need to write it down. Some people do. Making a journal sometimes makes you able to reflect on it later. But just waking up and going, okay, I woke up. I'm able to have this nice coffee and I'm able to wash my face. And you can pick 3 simple things every day, and they could change every day, and it's still going to help you retrain your brain. Always looking for that silver lining, always trying to make things just a little bit better that day. Even if you slept funny, even if you woke up a couple hundred times during the night, you had a bad night, it's still that retrain. Like, I'm going to make this day better than my night was. It doesn't make a difference. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many motivational speakers I can watch all day long, but if you don't have those habits instilled in you to keep yourself pushed through those dark times, those upset times where your brain just doesn't want to work with you, all this talking isn't going to help you. You've got to be able to, you've got to have that framework. Otherwise, you aren't going to be able to keep pushing through those dark days. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah. I think for me, man, both of those ideas from both you gentlemen and the stories behind it, phenomenal. I think for me, I initially posed the question of when you feel burned out, right? Like what's your go-to? And more nowadays, I would say for me, I feel a lot of burnout. And so it's really hard for me anyway to find that motivation. And that's where I tie a lot of things back to the military. You already mentioned David Goggins. I got to go with my Navy SEAL boy on this one.
That's right.
Yeah, he gets me hype. But he talks a lot about discipline, and that's where I kind of got the idea of the motivation versus the discipline. And so I rely back on a lot of the skills that I've learned in the last 20 years through the military to really keep me going. And I kind of like this topic that we're going with episode 2, because we kind of touched on this in episode 1, where Giso, you initially brought up, the making your bed. And then we kind of went into the idea I had about the Navy SEAL commander, and everything that he had on his philosophy behind that. And I think that's where my mindset goes in these harder days, more often now than in the past, where I pick up those little tiny habits that maybe you don't often think enough about them being wins. And I use those to stack habits on top of each other. They call it habit stacking, right?
Yep.
And that's what builds my motivation moving into the next step. So by the time my day has already started and now the bigger stuff is coming in, the goals, the projects, things at work, family life, issues at home, health, all the big stuff, the things that really matter, they become just that much easier, because then you can focus on, okay, well, what have I succeeded in today? Well, I've done a lot. And that's why I constantly try to motivate my community with, look, and you gentlemen, I've heard you both say this often too, you're probably doing a lot more than you think. You just got to give yourself a little mental clarity, and checks and balances is what I refer to often, right? Checks and balances. You got to give yourself a little grace. I love that word. You got to give yourself a little grace and show up for yourself and remind yourself that, yeah, life might be pretty hard right now.
Yeah.
But what have you done today, and what can you do next?
Yeah. No, you're right, man. I like the word to progress, to focus on progress and not perfection, right? Some people really hone in on trying to make it perfect. And listen, no.
Mhm.
Progress as you like
That's me too.
Unfortunately, I'm breaking myself of it, but I do it almost all too often.
Really, man, I was
Yeah.
like that for years, man. And I found myself just spinning my wheels because I wanted everything just right. You know, I want that souffle to just, build perfectly, and then somebody, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm focusing on the wrong aspects, right? Have I progressed any? I'm like, well, yeah, okay, I've done well. I know I had talked about in one of my lives, and I think there was somebody in there. They were like, wait a minute, how can you gauge happiness, right? There's no way of gauging happiness. And I believe there is, right? Here's why. Right? The things that make me happy, I do it because I can gauge it off the progress, right? Am I moving an inch? Am I moving a little bit more further to the things that I want to do? I am. There's your happy point. Focus on that, right? And if you have a gauge towards you moving towards the things that you want, right? As we talk about habits, right? If you put those habits in place and if you practice them, right? To
Mhm.
me, that makes me happy. Why? Because now I'm not focusing on perfection. I'm focusing on progress and I'm moving towards my goals. And that makes me happy, right? You kind of got to flip it. Because I know a lot of times people say, no, you can't gauge happiness. And, if you think about it in that vernacular, it'll change how a person, right, will move forward. It will change. Now you're connecting the why behind your habits. Right? When you go down a list and I start connecting the whys, man, you can extract so much greatness there, right? And then it
Mhm.
leads to other things, and it flows to other things. And then you see, like, man, my whole life is really connected. All I have to do is just go, put these habits in place, and slowly things will start to fall in place, man. And that's what I tell people. And it always catches people off guard. Well, you can't gauge happiness. How you gauge? It always does, right? But when I explain it, they're like, well, I never looked at it that way. All right, yeah. You know what I'm saying? But really, man, progress to me, man, having that meter, having realistic expectations on your habits. That's a big one too, man, because I think some people miss that because we try to bite off so much, right? And then we feel like we're failing. We feel like I'm not absolutely, absolutely, Camp, right? And man, for me, I had to learn that, gentleman, even in GISO, me moving forward, right? I didn't start doing this. Let me say it like this. I could have been, I would say further along because I listened to other people and they did not like other platforms, right? They was like, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And it finally dawned on me. I said, well, what are you doing? Well, I ain't doing nothing. Well, why am I listening to you, man? So once I realized what I wanted, right? Once I put progress in place, a meter, right? Well, that made me happy. That put a smile on my face because now I'm doing something that is creative. I'm doing something that's going to reach people. I'm doing something that's going to help people. And man, that put a smile on my face, man. And that makes me happy, right? And it all ties into the habits. Your habits can bring
Mhm.
happiness. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it, man. And Kent, what you think about that, man? You think what's your thoughts,
Well,
man?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to the whole thing, and you caught me off guard with the gauging the happiness thing. You did catch me there. You did catch me there. But it makes ultimate sense. It really
Yeah.
does. Like I could also be further along in what I'm doing. Also, had I listened to the people that are either on the way there or already there, not listen to everybody else that aren't doing anything, that are
Right.
stagnant, that aren't just even trying to be that 1% better. They don't have to be millionaires. They don't have to be some famous person. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just somebody that has the drive to be better.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that, because then I can gauge where I need to be and then say, okay, I know where I need to go. And
Yep.
and I notice those days when I wake up and I just want to not do anything and I just want to be, whatever. If I give into that in the morning, the rest of my day is always like that. It flatlines. I
Flatline.
can't get
Yep.
back out of it. I cannot. So I have to make sure in that morning when I wake up, no matter how I feel, no matter what weather it is outside, I just stack those good habits in the beginning and my day just goes better.
Yeah.
I push that positivity. I feel that positivity. I feel that energizing force. And if I don't feel that in the morning, the rest of my day just flatlines. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I can't let that happen. You got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And I found that being the biggest drive for me. So it was,
I love
Yeah,
it.
I love that. I love that. So that drives me to another question, and perhaps a separate segment of this is wellness tech, right? Camp, I know you're going to talk a little bit about this, and maybe we just turn it right back over to you on a little explanation about your research into this topic. But what tripped me out is that study says using wellness apps can spike your productivity, right? And you said there's a certain percentage behind that. I don't know about y'all, but I've tried all the apps, and I have a feeling, just playing devil's advocate here a little bit,
Sure.
on what's been shared so far, that our communities, I have a feeling that they might resonate with this a little bit more than maybe we even understand. That sometimes you need a little bit more, like those tracking mechanisms, to really hold yourself accountable. Sometimes, for example, I do it by habit now, because I think I've elevated to that level, but I used to use an app called Calm. It's a pretty popular app. But that's how I learned my breath work. A little backstory: about 10 years ago, I got really sick, and I still deal with that illness now. And the doctors, I've seen 10 to 15 different doctors, no, not even joking, in the state of Utah, to try to find what's ailing me inside my system. And we think it's an autoimmune thing, but it affects my heart. But there's nothing wrong with my heart. But it affects so many things, like working out, my stamina during the day, my sleep. It affects so many different things. And so holding myself accountable just became that much harder, right? Because I used to be the guy that was the first one in the gym, and I was putting in all the work, all the effort, and a part of me died when I couldn't do that anymore. And I had to learn different habits. One of the things that Calm app did for me, and might speak to the success that you're going to talk about, Cam, of these different types of systems, is that breath work became part of my daily habit. And when my heart would go crazy and I would be stuck in traffic and I would start to panic and my heart would just be going through the roof, and I'm thinking, I can't get out of traffic, I can't get to a hospital, what am I going to do? This is an oh shit moment for me. And until you actually go through that and really experience that, you feel like you're going to die. I know now I wasn't ever going to die. The doctors had told me that I needed to change what was going on up here to really just manage the system, the circadian rhythm that runs through our body. And just that breath work alone, outside of the medicine and all the other things that can help, right, which I do take, and they are very helpful, there's a place for that. Breath work is just another piece of that puzzle. And using that app helped me build this habit that, okay, in this moment, if I breathe correctly, if I try to calm my nervous system down, it might not fix it, but maybe it can get me home where I can sit down and drink some water and relax a little bit and try to figure out what's going on here, really.
Yeah.
You know, and so, Cam, I guess with that, let's dive into the study and move into the wellness tech. Is it helpful? Is it hype?
Sure.
To me, I
Well,
believe
at
it's
this
pretty helpful.
at this point, it's gotten to it's increased. It started out real low, real just like non-negotiable. It was just a lot of wasted time, wheel spinning, basically. And still at this point, it's still only at like 30%, which I thought it would be a lot higher than that. I really did, with the digging I did, and I was like, no, it can't be just 30%. But it's because it also ties to the individual, also, if they want to put the effort in to help themselves. But I found, there's quite a few out there. It's just a lot of like productivity apps also help too. Like you said, the Calm app also helps. Like just being able to plan your day out with just some basic scheduling apps, and then they add like motivation stuff in between each individual activity, or different breathing techniques in between each activity also. But other than that, it's just like, I thought the numbers were going to be a lot more staggering, but it's literally only at like 30%. It kind of blows
It's
my
wild.
mind that it shouldn't be more than that. But maybe we just haven't figured out the right approach to it yet, or getting it out to the right people. And maybe if we find one that works better for us over the others, we can always push it on here, and that maybe that'll help other people also. Or maybe that's just another avenue we could create something.
I like it. So I guess, Giso, a question for you is, do you think that tech, with all that said, do you think it's part of the solution, or do you think it's just like another dopamine hit? Is it another dopamine trap for us to get stuck on our phones and maybe put off like the hype of, oh, here's another app and I'm going to try it out and we'll see what happens with it,
Man, that's a great question, man. I think to me, it boils down to the user, right? Because you're 30% low, right? We're motivational type people, right? Our mindsets, our backgrounds, right? I think it boils down to the user. Now, if we can, get the user base a little bit higher as far as, hey man, you need this every day. This is a help. It's nothing to just a tool, right? That's how I look at life, right? Most things that is externally are tools. And could it be beneficial? Absolutely. Keep things on track. I think AI is out there, and I think sometimes it has a scary notion to it, but AI does the things that you don't want to do, right? It counts, it calculates real quick, boom, bop, boom, right? I don't want to pull out my calculator. Let me ask AI, tell me, right? So if we tie that
Right.
to, right, everyday life, and it can help you, man, I think it can be a benefit, but I think people are still a little afraid of, they seen the movie Terminator, right? And they think he's gonna, take over and, run. I don't know. But to answer your question in the short term, I think it can be a help, man. I love technology. If it's done right, if it's done for user interface, if they can use it and understand it, man, I think it can be a huge benefit out here, man, because I mean, look at where we're at now. Right. So if we use the new, I like using this word modality. Right? When people say modalities, I like, that's smart. Modality. I think if we go towards that, that, man, if it's done right, man, I think it can be a powerful tool. Yeah.
I love
Powerful.
that.
On that note, touching on AI,
Yeah.
I was just going to bring this up. You already kind of segued me without even realizing it.
Sure.
That's how I got where I'm at. That's where I have helped myself elevate the way I think.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've just got to learn how to use it. That's the biggest thing. Don't treat it like a Google search. Don't treat it like I've got this kind of infestation in my house. What do I mean, you can of course ask that stuff, but it's more than that. It echoes you. So if you talk to it pretty much in a sense, almost like a human being, where you just have a chat with it, it will give you the things you need, even though you don't realize you need it. And as long as you kind of make it, there's a way in the back end to kind of prompt it so that it acts a certain way to you, where it's no fluff, straightforward, where it's not just always saying you're the greatest, you're the best, you knock that down a little bit, and it will talk to you straightforward and just give you the answers you need. My daily schedule is broke down by my AI. Like literally, I wake up, it does this. I say, morning, what's my workout look like? Boom, it pumps my workout, and I have it altered every day. It changes every day. It adjusts if I need, because let's say my neck's sore. I'll say my neck's sore today. It'll adjust it for me, and then plan the rest of my day out. And it's
does it sound like Jarvis? Because I still think you're Iron Man. Does it sound like, hello, sir? Does it sound
the voice mode currently has a couple different variations, so you can have it actually sound like Jarvis if you wanted it to.
Nice. He's Iron Man. I'm telling you, Tony Stark's here, guys. Tony Stark. That's my guy, man. Wow.
AI models.
No, it's nothing to be afraid of, though. It's really nothing to be afraid of, and I don't. People get that assumption just because of movies, but I think the movies were kind of made to make us afraid of it, so we didn't embrace it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the way I think, but
great point, though. No, I like that.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
I mean, what do you guys think on that? I mean, just since we're already touching on the subject, but it's helped me productivity. It's helped my wellness. When I get in a slump, I just chit chat with it. I vent everything I can to it, and it breaks it all down for me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I use these tools frequently. I've had to, like you kind of said, I've had to learn. At first, I was misusing it like crazy, and I didn't even know it. I just, by virtue of all the other stuff that's out there, I treated it like that. And you can't treat it like a Google search or a Safari search or whatever other search application you use. It really is, in a sense, an artificial person. And if you tell it to prompt a certain scenario based on your philosophy, idea, understanding, or interpretation of something, it will learn that habit and it'll learn that idea from you. And the next time you go to prompt it, it'll take that information to build on. And slowly but surely, and it's kind of scary if you think about it, when you think about like robots taking over the world, right? It learns everything about you. And so when you prompt it next time for maybe a completely different study or research paper or book or whatever it might be, it takes all that information from your past and it'll be like, Samaya, your wife, in this situation, blah, 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 blah. Or your 4 girls might take this scenario like this, and here's a structure for that, right? and it builds it out because it remembers those key details from maybe
Right.
what you gave it information on before, like
Yeah.
names, places, dates, birthdays, numbers, whatever it might be, information about where you work. And it's kind of scary in that sense, but China already has all my data. So you know what? I'm with it. I don't really care
Bro,
at
they
this
already
point.
got it.
I had
They
to fill
already
out
got
all
it.
the application stuff to get on TikTok with my business, so I gave up. You know, everybody's got
Same
my
here.
information. You want it? I'm sure it's online somewhere.
Same here. Be positive, okay? What else you need, right? Eyeball sample. Let's go. Like, really? They already got it. Trust me.
Yeah, but to close that segment out, unless there's anything else to be said on it, I think the consensus is that the more productive you are when your day starts with structure and habits, the better your day seems to flow.
Yes.
You know,
Agreed.
and that brings me into another quite opposite subject that I wanted to touch on with this, and that's, you know, so far we've talked about habits and how we can build on those things, discipline versus, you know, whatever, progress, productivity. But there's a flip side to that, and that's unlearning habits that maybe aren't so good for you.
Mm.
One of the hardest habits I've had to unlearn was trying to fix everything myself, because I grew up very independent. I grew up, as I told you guys in episode 1, in a single parent home where my mother worked all the time, and there was 13 of us. And on top of that, she had a daycare with I don't even know how many kids, right? Just tons of kids. And she was just struggling to survive herself, let alone raise kids. So a lot of my childhood was me raising myself. I didn't have a lot of mentors. I didn't have a father. I didn't have a leader to look to. I had to use society as my leader. And if you do that, a lot of times you end up in the wrong crowds and you develop some habits that are not so good for you.
Yeah.
And so trying to fix everything myself became a top priority. It's what made me feel, I don't know if special is the right word, but it gave me some sort of validation where I wasn't receiving it otherwise. And if I'm being honest, asking for help, it used to feel weak. Like I was weak if I was asking for help. So I always just took everything on myself. Now I know it's a strength, you know, but my pride almost cost me my peace when I didn't recognize that. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Man, that is deep, man. Things to unlearn. Man, I grew up a lot like you, man. Just you know, no father, right? As well. I was, you know, inner city. Demographics were crazy, right? Gosh, man. I got a lot of like, if there was a leader in my space, it was Jean-Luc Picard. It was TV characters. It was,
Okay.
you know, Rambo, right? The first one, right? It was, you know, those guys that I had to look up to, man. But it was hard though, man, trying to find my place or find, you know what I'm saying, who I am in that. Because if you don't have examples or leaders that's right there, readily available, saying, oh, whoa, 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 I tried that, but think about it this way. Or I don't think you should go down that path. Let's talk about it this way, right? That's hard, man. So you're like a pinball. You're just being just going through life, trying to figure out things, man. But for me, man, it was letting go and not almost like you, letting other people do things for you. Does it make sense? Because I was always, no, I
100%.
got it on me, right? I'm kind of like you too, bro, in that sense. And I think camp is like this as well, just from the hardship that we've gone through, right? Man, I too got sick one time, bro, and this is about 5 years ago, right? Lost 35 pounds. I thought I was going to the upper room and I was out of here, man, you know, that I was gone. And my strength, I used to rely on physical strength all the time. That's all I knew, right? Folks would be like, oh, me, oh, I got it. I get it. You know, it was like Mikey. He like it. He eat it, Mikey. You know, I was Mikey, you know? Right? Man, bro, finding strength is not always brute force. And that was something that I had to figure out myself, man. Like my ability, my mindset, who I am, my character, my aura, the way I walk in a room, so much more powerful than me bench pressing 485 pounds at one point of my life, right? And just throwing that out there. But anyway, it's something that, man, I had to learn, and it took me a long time to relax and just let go, especially when I was down and out and I didn't have anybody else. Man, that was one of the lowest points of my life where I had to watch my wife do things and we're in the middle of moving and
Yeah.
Doctor told me, hey man, if you move too much, you out. So I had to sit down. I had to, and
Hmm.
so man, allowing other people to do things and not have to control everything and make sure that when I learned that ability to unlearn some things because of lifestyle, it was like a weight off my shoulder. It allowed me to trust them, right? It allowed me to allow them to learn, right? Man, once I did that, now I look at my wife so differently now, man. In those 5 years, not that I didn't love her, but it was a different, deepened love. Like you love me, like you're not gonna just roll me down some stairs, right? And you're just not gonna just leave me in the pasture. I got flowers growing around me. Just man,
Yeah, you can learn a lot about yourself when you take a step back and allow others
Yes.
to show up for you.
absolutely,
The
man,
people in your circle that really will show up, and you'll know who they are when
absolutely.
you allow them to play that part in your life. You
Yes.
learn not just a lot about them and allow them that space, but you learn a lot about yourself too when you let go.
Gentlemen, we are breaded for this. Our hardship, what we've been through, what we're going through still, we're breaded for this. Trust me.
Yeah.
You're not going to find men that can come together and really talk deep, right? In the
Mm.
issues. It's, go like that scar. Where did that scar come from? Tell me about this scar. Tell me about that trigger. What? You're not going to find that too often, man. What you got, bro? Like,
Well, it's like my past is a little different.
Yeah.
I come from the atypical family, both parents, older brother. My family they're freaking awesome. They're still
Yeah.
there. They're still helping me out. They're still, they're everything. Um, but I believe things differently. My brain worked a different way. I'm still trying to understand it myself, but I see things differently. I function a little differently. And I don't know if it's just a higher functioning or what it is. We'll just label neurodivergent and just call it that. But it's just trying to understand how my brain works.
Mm.
And a lot of the times when I was younger, it was just always negative in my head, always self-doubt, always negative, always, no matter what I did, I couldn't get out of it. And I think that's kind of where a lot of it stemmed from, and then caused everything else to go further and further and further down the wrong paths until I finally hit that realization point 5 years ago when I finally was just like, that's the last drop. And things just started waking up again. I'm like, this is what it's like to actually start pushing forward, to start progressing and start understanding what you need to do and asking for the help, but knowing what to ask for though. Not just going, I need help. Well, what do you need help with? I don't know. And getting into the deeper roots of what's going on in your head and going, oh, this is what I'm really stuck on. Can you help me with that? And progressing further with that. And it seems to, I'm like behind the curve with a lot of things, and I'm just now catching up to where I want to be and where the way I want my brain to work and the way I want to think. And it's just figuring out that exact what you need help with that I
And
found
that's
the biggest
okay.
part. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Absolutely, man. Wow.
And that actually, gentlemen, those two stories are actually quite beautiful. It actually goes back to what we discussed in our last episode, and that mentality that Giso shot out about going into the attic of your mind and the belly of the beast, so to speak, or however you said it, right? But to the basement of your soul, and really getting, because it's not sexy, y'all. It's not sexy. This stuff is not sexy. It's not fun. I think you labeled it, this is gut wrenching ugly, right?
Yeah.
I think you said that, Brian, right? And
Yeah,
so,
I did.
Showing up when no one's watching, that's the big piece of this, right? And really trying to identify yourself, what you said, Camp. Maybe you don't know what that is, but you know something's off.
Yep.
And that's okay. You don't have to understand it all. Just identifying that, hey, something's off here. That's the first piece of that solution, to say, okay, I need some help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. I'm always asking, man. I'm telling you, I didn't ask. It was solo dolo a lot of times, but now, nah, man, that me sitting down for those 5 years and not really being myself. Hey, Camp. Hey, Lyman, listen.
Yep.
I will ask. And if you say no, I'm gonna still love you, and I know where to put that. Right. But man, ask. Men aren't taught to ask. Women are. Men, oh, you better have it all together, buddies. You better put some dirt on it. You better go out there and fight back. And like, I need some help. Now you don't get out. right? My stepfather listen, I could not swim, right? I can now, but he said, boy, you're going to learn how to swim. I was like, Pops, we just, he didn't come back up. Oh no. I told you I didn't know how to swim.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just sinking like a rock, man. Just Pops.
Trial by fire, right?
Right. Now, no, man. I ask questions, man. I do. And because I do that now, it's helped my relationship with my wife. Because I do that now, it's helping my relationship with friends, with people, because I ask now. I don't assume anything, man. That's one thing that will destroy progress, will destroy relationships, will destroy the things that we're stacking if we start to assume things and not rely on habits. So my habit of asking questions, I'm gonna ask because I want to know. It'll destroy that stuff, man. And in the community, that's what I try to teach people, that don't assume. I came on one time, man, and there was a lady that was part of the group, and I saw her as a good friend, and she was going through some hard things, and I was responding back, through text and everything, just saying, hey, I'm sorry for that, keep me posted. But on my end, I'm suffering. I was in the hospital not too long ago. I was wearing a heart meter and stuff, right? I'm still
Mhm.
fighting through some things, but they didn't know that on that end. And they went off on me, tore me asunder through a text. And I said, whoa, wait a minute, calm down.
Wow.
Let's talk about it. Right. So I called her. Well, when Queen hears what's going on, it was, my wife didn't like it, her response. And I was like, well, hey, I said, tell me, where did I fail at? Tell me, let's talk about it. How did I hurt you? Because that's not my intent. Well, you just giving me these, auto-tune cans, and I'm going through it. I said, listen, I apologize, but listen, I got things going on over here. I said, hey, what if you just would have asked a question? How differently would things turned out?
100%. Yeah.
But because you
100%.
assumed, absolutely, Mary, because you assumed, my wife said, nope. So now they're not part of the community. And I absolutely miss anybody
That's
that used to be part of
unfortunate.
the community, man. That's unfortunate, right? That's not my heart at all. But I'm learning, man. Listen, ask.
Well, I think
It
we
doesn't
started
hurt.
off yesterday talking about how we're going to offend some people probably on this podcast. And you know
Yep.
what? Like we said then, it's going to be okay.
It's gonna be
Yep.
okay. Absolutely.
Sorry,
Man.
Camp. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're all good. You're all good. I was just going to add to that also. It's just letting it sink in, before you start getting to that heated moment, before you think or you forget to ask, step back, do a couple breathing techniques. My go-to is the 4-4-4 box technique, but that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody.
It's a good technique.
4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, up to 4 times till you're just you're chill.
Yeah.
And then ask that question.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Initially, what prompted me to ask this to you gentlemen is I still go through this today. I still hold on to a lot of control, and it's not that I need it. It's just that it's a hard habit to break when you've been doing it for 43 years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
Unfortunately in the military, a lot of people look to me, as the guy with the answers, and I'm not tooting my own horn, I swear. It's just something, because of the nature of how I grew up, I've put expectations on myself that I am that guy to go to. And in that, as I've tried to develop and move forward out of this mindset and into a progression of hopefully something better in myself, one of my favorite responses has become, I don't know. Simple as that, period. End of discussion.
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
And being able to openly say that, I have that same problem too. Like if I don't know, me personally, I'm going to dig for it.
Yeah, and I will
But
too.
then I shouldn't.
Trust me,
I shouldn't.
After that conversation, you can believe I'm the first one on ChatGPT trying to figure it out
Gotta
until
figure
I
it out.
figure out the
Gotta
whole
figure
thing. Because
gotta
next
figure
time
this
you
out.
come to me, I'm gonna know the answer.
Yep.
But in that moment, I have to hold myself accountable and allow myself some grace and space.
Yep.
And say, you know what? In this moment, I got a lot going on too, and I got other tasks. I have other things to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. What would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then that prompts them to really think about it and be like, oh, maybe he doesn't have all the answers, and that's okay. Maybe I would do this or I would do that, or maybe we can research it together and try to figure it out instead of me just always being the solution and the answer.
That's good. I like that. It allows
Yeah.
them to problem solve,
Mhm.
right? Skill set, right? Think outside the box, be creative. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Well, listen, fellas, we're coming up on the back end of our podcast here. I wanted to open it up a little bit to our communities. And I hate doing this, but I might be putting you gentlemen on the spot here. I've noticed in similar podcasts or other podcasts, the hosts like to bring their communities into the spotlight, so to speak, community shout outs and stuff like that. And for possibly, if it happens or not, I don't know, possibly for the next episode, I wanted to prompt maybe some connectivity in the comments between the people that we have listening so far. I think we have 6 subscribers last time I checked on YouTube. So, I mean, just that we have one is phenomenal to me. And so that's awesome. And it's only been a week. And so, but I'll start with this, and I don't know if you gentlemen will have something to refer to or not. So I hope it doesn't put you out. But in my community, somebody messaged me this week, and they said, you know, I started writing 1 sentence of gratitude every night. I don't know how exactly he phrased it, and I'm not going to say who it was because I don't have permission. But I will say this: he didn't think that it would matter, and you know, 2 months into that process, because this has been something that he's been working through something that he was influenced by on one of my posts. But 2 months into it, he's like, guess what, man? I'm calmer. I'm more present. I'm more attuned. I'm not snapping like I used to. And to me, that's powerful.
Yes.
That's proof that what we are doing here works. Not just in concept, not just in theory, but in actual hard work on the mental and working through these processes that we're talking about. Is there anything that your guys' communities have come to you with in these aspects, and hopefully it'll prompt some of our users to comment on this post, you know, on this live, and reach out and say some things.
Yeah. Man, there's this one, man, there's so many, right, that I can think of. But I was live maybe the other day, right? They all run together when you do them 5 days a week, right? They all run together. But there's this gentleman in there. I won't say his name. Normally very quiet, doesn't really say too much, right? Type only, like powerful words. And I read them and I'm like, wow. But we were talking about faith and hope and how to have the 2 keys and how if you use them together, right, you can create greatness. And he's going through some issues in his, in his everyday life. And he typed this, man, and it made me pause. He said that, my faith brings me hope. And I thought that really resonated with just the message itself, right? That he has so much faith in what he's doing, every day. It kind of ties back into habits and stuff, right? His faith is so strong that it brings him hope. And I said, man, do you even really realize what you said right there? That is so powerful, that you can have so much faith in your ability, so much faith in your great habits, right? So much faith in what you're doing, that no matter where you are, it'll bring that hope to you, man. That was a powerful moment in time. And I love getting, even comments like that, man. It makes my heart overjoyed, man, that we are doing something that is going behind enemy lines and saving somebody, man. To me, that's what I see, right? Getting a strike team together, 15 minutes out, right? QRF, quick reaction, we Lyman know what I'm, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. And saving people here, bro. That's what I see with us, right?
I love it. I
Joining
share that.
forces, and that's what I see, man. So yeah.
Camp, what you got, brother?
Well, I've had a few, and I've only been doing this for a few months. It still kind of baffles me sometimes. Just people message me, and obviously I'm not putting anybody out there, but they'll message me like your streams just help me. They help me get through the day. And I never thought I'd come on and be in this space when I started streaming. I had no clue when I started on TikTok. I just was myself.
Yeah.
But come to find out, myself has a little bit more power than I thought it did. Just the voice and sharing my story and being that positive go-to when people just need a kind of little pick-me-up. And I've gotten some messages here and there, and I've even gotten I've started talking with random people through the comments. Like there was one video that actually went really well. I think it ended up like 15,000 some views. It was really good. And they left a message saying, I needed this today. And I was like, I'm glad it did, and if you'd ever want to just stop by the stream, let me know. And then they messaged me back, and we kind of just chit-chatted back and forth, nothing crazy. And I left them a couple different tips that I do just on a general daily basis. And they messaged me back, and they're like, that's really helped me. I really appreciate that. I'm like, just that little bit, just that I reached one person, just that. It's more than that. I know that, but it's like, just it's like, oh, okay, now I feel that little bit better.
Yeah, I love that. For me, and I can attest to both of you gentlemen being this for me. I don't chat a lot in your guys' lives, and sometimes I don't make it because I'm at work during the times that y'all go live. But I have you by my desk side, and kind of like Gisa was talking about in our last episode. If you talk, somebody's listening, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always listening. And I think I've sent both of you personal messages in the past and let you know. And if I haven't, know now that you both are a very influential part of my life, and I appreciate your lives. They do help me if they help nobody else. And I've been very drawn to both of you fellas and inspired to take part in this podcast with y'all because of that. Not just because of that, but you're both very powerful speakers, and you have a voice, and what you have to share is very important to people and is very much needed. And I'm just appreciative for y'all, man. And I'm really excited to do this with y'all. But yeah, some praises to you guys. But let me leave you with this, and then maybe we'll close this out because we're ending up on our last minutes here. I already said this, but progress isn't sexy, right? It's showing up when no one's watching. It's making your bed when your mind's a mess. It's meditating when your thoughts are too loud. You don't have to overhaul your life right now. You don't have to do it today. You just need to lay one brick. And guess what? Before you know it, you're going to have a big ass wall. And that wall is going to mean something. And eventually, that foundation is strong enough to stand on when life hits you hard. And who knows, maybe it's a moat that you've built that only allows certain people over into that castle. But that castle is something that you built one brick at a time. And I promise you, if you keep tuning into these, something's going to resonate with you. These two gentlemen here have a lot of profound things to say. I feel like I'm also there in that space, and I'm learning, and I hope you can learn with me. If you build the habit will build you. And so with that, we love y'all. Keep pushing, keep growing. We're doing this together, one small win at a time. And I'll turn it over to you for any closing out comments.
Listen, man, I just want to say to the community, I love y'all. As Lyman said, keep pushing, keep believing in yourself, keep going. I love this, man. And you two guys, man, I'm going to say this. I love y'all, right? Lyman, quick little story about you, man. For you to have sat with somebody that was in the room that was talking about not being here anymore, and you didn't know this person, and you sat with him, from what I understood, the whole night, I said, I got to know this man. I got to be his friend. That is a powerful thing, man. You jumped in without hesitation. Bro, that's first responder type mentality, man. That's going right on me in a different way. You know how powerful that is. We need more of that. So, man, much love, much respect, man, to you. Camp, you're phenomenal. The way you think about things, the way you see things, the way you analyze things, the way you love people, the way you love your daughter, man, right? You a powerhouse, man. So when I learn these two, listen, I call you brothers. I'm telling you, I got you 6. If you ever call me, listen, I'm coming with whatever you need. Trust me, Giso got you. That's what I got, man.
Love you
I guess
too,
I'll just wrap it up at this point then. Just kind of build on what we were talking about before. One little extra tip, if I can leave you guys with anything. I mean, obviously, we just kind of went over through I'm trying to stay away from the super emotional stuff. We don't need to be tearing up right now. It's just not going to happen. I love you guys as well. You guys have been a real big help for me just since I met you guys. You guys have helped me push through so much. But like to add on what we were talking about before, one other little helpful tip to build onto those habits. Whenever your night ends, I like doing what I call a nightly reflection. So what I'll do is I'll go on what went well that day. Okay. Be like, okay, this was good. This was good. That was good. Okay. Yeah. You're going to have some bad things. Okay. Well, what can I tweak with that? So you think about like maybe a couple bad things. You're like, okay, maybe next time I'll approach it this way. And maybe next time I'll approach this situation this way. So write it down, and just kind of think through the answers, but only set a timer for 5 minutes. So you're not mulling over it. Just make it quick, get it done, get it over with. And I started doing this at night. I sleep better now because I got those thoughts out of my head. They're not racing as much.
Wow. Come on, man.
So if I can leave you guys with anything, that's definitely a helpful tip that I've looked up and I do now, like on a regular basis. I've done so much research on this stuff myself. You'd think I was a psychologist at this point, but
Right.
it's all self-taught, man. It's learning through experience. So
I
you
love
guys
that.
all. So
yeah, I love that.
That's it.
I love that. And I love you two gentlemen. I appreciate you for another wonderful episode here on the Soulful Threes Journeys podcast. That's a wrap for this episode. If you build the habit builds you. We hope something in this conversation sparked a shift for you, even if it's just a small one, because that's what the journey is really about. And so with that, many blessings, much love, fam, to all of our communities out there. We love you. We appreciate you. Please show up, and we'll continue to show up for you. You know how we do when we end this.
Nice.